Hey, did you read that New York Times article that came out?
Oh yeah, about the Zika and
Yeah, and how like it's actually a risk if like a pregnant mother gets Zika, it can spread to their child. I think that's a problem.
yeah, I agree. I mean that is an issue. I don't know. I wonder like how likely that is and the real chances of that happening. You know?
Well, the article said something about like 4,000 proved cases of like birth defects in children. So
Yeah. Is that in the U.S.?
that was all in Central America. It hasn't
Oh
like
right,
not totally spread to the U.S. yet.
right.
But like it's talking about some like preventative, like if there's Zika in the area, you shouldn't get pregnant and like start having children because that could be
Yeah,
a problem for your child.
I've heard about that as well. But I personally I don't really know if that's the government's business to get involved in a family's personal child plan.
But it's the safety of the child. I mean,
But you're also taking into account, like the happiness of a family. What if they've been trying for so long and, they have this opportunity to get pregnant, something like that scenario, and, now the government's saying you shouldn't do this? I don't know if it's really any of their business.
I guess so. It's like I couldn't imagine putting a kid through that. Like think about it.
I mean, it's just, honestly, you said those cases were in Central
Central
America.
America, yeah.
So it's just a little surprising to me that the U.S. is kind of throwing out that caution as well. I understand taking precautions, but if it isn't really here yet, I feel like it's a bit nosy and
I think like what I wanted to say the article was saying is, and it has some like sources to the CDC and the World Health Organization about how it's like this could be really bad for your kids. We don't know the long-term effects of this, but like in Central America, South America, they started like advisory warnings to people, and the like New York Times was saying like be prepared for this to happen. It hasn't happened yet in the U.S., but like it might if Zika spreads here pretty badly.
right. But I mean, don't you think that maybe that's far away? Like, do you think that that's could be soon?
I don't know. Some of these things spread fast. Some like don't ever leave the continent. So, but I mean, I know there's been confirmed cases of Zika in the U.S. So,
So then I guess how long would this last? Like, how long would people need to wait? What if this is, like, what if this drags on longer than anticipated? Because we really don't know that much about Zika right now.
right. The most cases that like I think only last for a few months would be like a year maybe. Like they'd say just try not to have kids this year, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like you take into account what if this lasts longer than we're anticipating and it's not just something that passes through. Not that it would necessarily be like a big old epidemic, but it's asking people to possibly wait years to have a kid, and maybe some people don't have years.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's kind of the parents' deal whether they want to take the risk, but I still think the government should like acknowledge the risk and tell everybody about it.
Right. I agree with you. I think that's important that people are aware
It's like
that it could
know
happen.
the risk before you take it.
Right. So I think it's just like a balance of how far the government can impose this, like to what extent, and then, just if families are willing to risk that. Right.
All right, so basically, here's what all went down. We had a conversation about our topics, the two sides of whether or not basically pregnant mothers should be warned by the government or even just told not to like get pregnant because of the risks of birth defects and problems with their child due to Zika or other diseases and such. So, my sources were the New York Times, the CDC, and the World Health Organization, were three different places I looked. Um, Common among them all was innate sociocentrism. It was all like they thought it was true because that's what they believed, that's what they wanted to believe as a unit. And then there was also some innate selfishness in the CDC and the World Health Organization because it was in their best interest to give this warning to everyone because like that's their deal, is making everyone healthy. Personally, my flaw in this was probably not fleshing out everything all the way because the topic did not interest me as much as something else probably would have. So I was content just to stay at the surface level and interpret from there.
I think I actually had, I think, maybe the same or similar sources. As far as like the source itself, not really like the articles in particular, but um, I think that I probably could have used my sources a bit more to build up my argument, um, and show my perspective. But it's actually kind of funny that like I found those same flaws within my sources, but I think we just both had those presented in a different way to back up our own stances, if that makes sense. Like I noticed those same qualities. It's just um, I didn't, play them out like you did. Um, and I think that I was pretty impressed on like how I could build up my perspective and kind of get Charles to think a little bit, and he did the same for me. So I think it was a good back and forth civil discussion, and we were both able to like, you know, get a glimpse of the other side and understand it, and yeah, pretty good.